Redditors who proposed and were turned down. Why did your partner reject the proposal? And why were you confident you'd get a yes? Not a proposal, but when my mom and dad were dating, my dad told my mom he loved her. Her reply was, "When I feel the same, I'll let you know." It became a running joke in their marriage. Honestly, I'm left wondering what else can one say when they can't answer "I love you too." Thank you. Just plain silence. I think your mother's answer was as good as it gets. I know. I've gotten the thank you once before. Hella devastating if I'm being honest. I'm very sorry, but I don't feel the same way about you maybe. I got plain silence until she was ready to say it back. I thought it was very fair. She shouldn't have had to say something that wasn't true or she wasn't ready for, and I shouldn't have to hide my feelings in a relationship. It's been 6 years, and she says it regularly and readily. She said no because we were teenagers and I was moving across the country. I was confident I'd get a yes because we were teenagers and I was moving across the country. When you listen to Hey There Delilah one too many times. Hey there Delilah, what's it like in New York City? You're 8,000 miles away. So girl just Snapchat me them titties. Wow, never realized how well this song held up after all these years. Fun fact, the guy from Plain White T's never dated Delilah. He met her at a party and then wrote that song about her. She went as his date to the Grammys, but they were never a couple. Imagine meeting a guy at a party and he writes a song about you after barely knowing you. You decline his advances and still spreads like wildfire. She can probably never walk into a mall without wincing. I mean, at a certain point he probably became more attached to the song than Rando Delilah, but it got to the point where it was weird to change it. For sure, it just reminds me of this nightmare I have where I'm back in middle school and ask a girl to the dance with a note, she says no, and then the principal reads the note over the PA. I feel this one deep in my loins. My mom initially turned my dad down. He traveled for work for long periods and was given the option to regularly fly home or fly someone to him. It's all rather romantic, really. They spent a week traveling through the French countryside after only being together for 3 months. She went with him abroad a few times in many different places in the US for long weekends. Of course, he'd also be home for periods of time and they'd stay together at my mum's place. When he proposed, after taking a job with much less travel, my mom was afraid that they'd settle down and live together full time and maybe find out it didn't work. She didn't think it was practical to get married without living normal life together first. My dad thought that was unnecessary, but said fine. My mom is an excessive worrier, though I understand the logic. He asked 4 months later, and she said yes. Your mom knows what's up. It's too easy to enjoy time with someone when you only see them for vacations. Living with a person and striking a good balance for everyday drudgery is something else entirely. That honestly sounds pretty wise. Much smaller changes have broken couples up before, so as unromantic as it sounds, that's probably a smart thing to check. It's something I learned when I was sure an online relationship was going somewhere, but upon meeting her it just didn't work out. Well, actually, to be honest, she just decided she wasn't that into me after meeting me. One of those I love the idea of you things. Meeting broke the mystery. I dyed my hair from blonde to brown, light brown with blonde highlights really, in college, and my BF at the time could not get over it. He said from behind I looked like his sister and he couldn't handle it. Haha. The relationship never recovered. I don't blame him though. People just have some things they are weird about. My mom once dumped a guy because she found out he didn't have all 10 toes. It creeped her out for some reason. Honestly, it was for the best. We were in Vegas for his brother's wedding, and I was incredibly drunk and suggested we just go to a little chapel and get hitched. He said that probably wasn't a great idea, and he was right, since I found out later he was seeing other people and took money out of my account after we broke up. *EDITED, to answer the same few questions I keep getting. We had a shared account out of which we paid our rent because we lived together at the time. He took money out before I had the opportunity to switch banks. I made the suggestion a few days after the couple's wedding. It was not during the event. I was shit-faced drunk, so it wasn't like I was thinking clearly. This was over 20 years ago, and the current Mr. Anthropy is a completely different dude. Yikes. That went downhill really fast. It was never uphill. Oddly enough, saying that the relationship was uphill the whole time also means that it was a difficult struggle. Some loves are made from ups and downs, and goods and bads, and grins and frowns, and lights and laughs, and whims and wit. And some are sort of made of shit. You are everywhere. It was the day of my 16th birthday. He was 19, and we were just waiting for the bus when he suddenly turned to me and asked if I was ready to get married. Like, pretty much immediately. His reasoning was that he really wanted to make sure he was married with kids on the way before he was 20, so he didn't leave it too late, and because that his parents were married by his age. We'd been together a month. How far out of boot camp was this guy? I don't really think you need the /s for this one. I'm from the Northeast and the vast majority of my friends didn't get married until their late 20s or early 30s. Some aren't married at all. There was a lot of culture shock when I joined the army when I was 22, but the most ridiculous thing to me was how young some of married guys were. I felt like half of the teenagers in basic training were already married or engaged, and some even had a couple kids. Other guys were getting married after knowing a girl for a few weeks. A couple guys I knew eloped after one date. Out of the 100 or so soldiers I knew who were married while I was in, I went to exactly one wedding. The rest were done at a courthouse. They'd all seemed to have 2 kids by the time they were 21 too. It no wonder why the divorce rate in the military is so high. The barracks suck, but it's painfully obvious to everyone else that a ton of those marriages wouldn't last. I gave my girlfriend a promise ring. We'd been dating for a year and I wanted to buy her something special to mark the occasion. I asked my mom for some advice on a gift. My folks had the happiest, healthiest relationship I've ever witnessed, so when my mom told me how elated she was when my dad gave her a promise ring, they were young and didn't have much money, so dad gave mom a promise ring while he saved for an engagement ring. I knew that I was going to do the same. I planned a nice evening, dinner at her favorite restaurant, flowers, a walk by the lake, her favorite dessert. While walking, I found a nice spot and pulled out the ring. I slid it onto her finger, explaining what it was and what it meant. My girlfriend looked as though I'd just shit on her hand. She pulled the ring off her finger, handed it back to me and said, in so many words, "Thanks, but no thanks. Come back when it's an engagement ring." Edit. After learning about my grand romantic gesture, her mom explained to me that the whole promise ring thing is a bit old-fashioned and people don't really do that anymore. I felt like an idiot. We broke up not long after. What happened after? To be honest, the concept of promise ring is foreign to me, but in no way I would condone how that turned out. After learning about my grand romantic gesture, her mom explained to me that the whole promise ring thing is a bit old-fashioned and people don't really do that anymore. I felt like an idiot. We broke up not long after. That seems like a big red flag though. I feel like any good partner should be more patient with you than that. Pretty sure you dodged a bullet on that one. Well, he said in so many words, so she might have much more politely told him that, while she appreciates it, she thinks that kind of gesture is more appropriate when they're ready for a bigger commitment. Sometimes a promise ring is like, I'm not ready to commit to you forever, but I do want to get the emotional validation of proposing and having you wear the ring. It's definitely a lot cuter when they're too young to be able to get married than when they are old enough and the reason they're waiting is just because they don't want to yet. I was 18 and had been dating this guy for 2 years. He enlisted and didn't think to mention it until he got his orders for basic training. I wasn't thrilled that he waited until after the fact to tell me, but I accepted it and was supportive before and during his training. 3 months go by and we're at graduation. Instantly I notice he as a different person. At 18 I already knew that life experience changes people, and over those few days I start getting scared that this military life isn't a good fit for me. I'm nothing like those people. I wouldn't fit in, and it's not the lifestyle I wanted for myself. I'm sort of marinating on these thoughts and figuring out where to go from here. Basically, how do I end this politely? I decide basic training graduation isn't the time. I would wait until he's settled at tech school. The time comes to leave the base and go home, and he gets down on one knee. I'm totally shocked. Somehow I didn't think this was a possibility. He wanted what all young military guys want: marriage and a family. I wanted those things too, but not with this shell of a person he'd become, and not living as a military wife. He's doing fine now. We both found partners and have families. We are still friends, and we both agree that it's a good thing I didn't accept his proposal. Oh, young boots. You both dodged a bullet. I will take a Joe getting married to his high school sweetheart any day of the week over Joe marrying that one stripper he met. So many 2 AM phone calls.